the Western Cape, Debbie Schaefer, who said that these allegations of sexual harassment revealed last week, some by the Mail and Guardian, were most concerning. Where are we on this?
We are deeply distressed by the allegations against these three men in the leadership structures of Equal Education. And it's important to note that prior to releasing her public statement yesterday, the MEC for Education in the Western Cape did not discuss her concerns with us beforehand. We have written a letter today to her in response to the concerns that she's raised, and we've stated that we understand the concern that the MEC would have, as any other MEC would, and for us, protecting the members of the movement and protecting learners from sexual harassment or the abuse of power is of critical importance. But it's important to state that none of these three men had regular interactions with learners in the Western Cape.
Let's just pick up from the correspondence that you say you sent to her office. She had given you until the close of business today to tell her what you've been doing about these allegations. What assurances have you given her?
We've responded to her in full, and we've explained how we've acted swiftly in responding to the allegations. And we've also requested an urgent meeting with her. We want to have a conversation with her about how we can go about protecting learners from any risks. But we also want to dispel any misconceptions or misperceptions that the MEC may have about how Equal Education operates, and just to affirm with her that the men in question, the complaints against them were leveled by staff members, and that staff at Equal Education who are in contact with learners go through a rigorous process of learning about sexual harassment, and that it's a dismissible offense in the very first instance of the offense, and that there are policies and procedures which Equal Education staff and Equal Education volunteers submit to when they sign up to our organization.
Leanne, of course, that is the script that you must read from, but essentially here the issue is that although it was staffers who made these allegations, they did so in a climate in which they felt their voices weren't necessarily heard. That's at the center of these allegations, and then the question then becomes, if staffers were battling to be heard, what chance might learners have in that environment?
I must say, Bongani, I'm taking exception to you saying that I'm reading for a script. We've taken complete accountability and responsibility for what has happened, and we did act swiftly to address these allegations. And we understand that there's a climate of fear that prohibits people from reporting sexual harassment. So as well as looking into the allegations, there's also going to be an inquiry into Equal Education's policy and our practices and our organizational culture to get to the root of why women do not come forward sooner when they experience these abuses of power. And this inquiry is going to look at Equal Education's record of dealing with sexual harassment issues. We are determined to confront this head on.
With respect, Leanne, the fact that you're having an inquiry does suggest that the matter has not been put to bed. So I will still insist that you are reading from a script. We've got very serious allegations that have been made by former staffers who said they weren't heard. They went as far as to say that, in fact, powerful men in the organization colluded to silence their voices. It's quite well within the MEC's rights to be concerned about the chance that learners might have against such an organization.
The incidences of abuses of power that you're referring to, and that the allegation that powerful men have colluded to keep these quiet, relate to a 2011 incident, and a complaint has been written by myself and by the other managers at Equal Education who are concerned, and has asked our National Council to look into how the 2011 incident was conducted. I have to say to you that if you have been keeping abreast with our communications around this issue, you will see that we are committed to acting with transparency and with accountability. And I don't know what we could then do to further dispel that, but to say that we confront this head on, and we want anyone who has ever experienced any sort of mistreatment at Equal Education to know that they have come forward. And it's not, doesn't mean those people have to come to me. There's an independent panel that has been appointed to handle this inquiry, and all allegations are going to, and testimonies are going to be dealt with confidentially and sensitively. And we seek justice, and we want to create a safe and welcoming environment at Equal Education for everyone who is part of our movement.
Leanne, I'm going to ask you this question now for the third time. The central point that I'm trying to raise here, which has been raised by the MEC in the Western Cape, is around the risk that children may be facing dealing with your organization. And again, I say to you, the fact that there's still to be an inquiry about whether the events are about allegations recently or even much earlier suggests this matter has not been put to bed. The MEC is raising this issue, and it's one that's worth asking you about.
And we're not saying that the MEC is wrong to raise this issue. We want to have a conversation with the MEC about how we can protect learners from this risk. But again, anyone who works with learners in Equal Education submits to a certain set of policies and procedures and submits to a particular type of conduct, and there's a rigorous training that happens. An organization of the scale of Equal Education, yes, we have dealt with instances of sexual harassment, and you have to believe me when I say that we're committed to dealing with this. There is no other option but to confront instances of the abuse of power head on, and to do so with integrity. We're not saying that the MEC for Education in the Western Cape should not raise her concerns, but we're saying that she needs to raise justifiable concerns, the way in which she has raised it, and that we have asked her to actually have meetings with us so that we can discuss our concerns and we can explain to her carefully what we have done and how we want to go forward in ensuring that our movement is a safe space for all who join it.
Debbie Schaefer has said she's requested the names of learners, she's requested the schools they attend, dates of interviews, who was present during those interviews. She wants all of that information by Friday. Is it information you have, and can you meet that deadline?
This is one of the issues that we want to engage the MEC on. We want to be clear how far back she wants this information to go. And we have to also set parameters for the sorts of information that she wants. We want to cooperate with her and other provincial MECs as much as possible. We aren't trying to hide anything. Since the allegations came to us first around the former General Secretary 4 weeks ago, we've been communicating transparently about the processes that have been unfolding. And part of the response that we gave to MEC Schaefer today was to explain to her the type of interactions, or actually the lack of interactions, that these three men in particular have had with equalizers, but we're also putting together a record for her of how we have previously dealt with any sorts of issues.
It does raise the question of who watches the watchers. This evening we've been running a poll around NGOs in general, around the fact that is there sufficient oversight. Certainly from our little sample, it would suggest that the perception out there is there isn't. And in your case, who watches the watchers? You talk about your organizational culture. To whom are you ultimately accountable?
So one of the bodies that oversees the work of our movement is our National Council. And then you might ask, well, who watches what the National Council is doing? And that's why our National Council opted to appoint an independent panel to oversee the process of investigating the allegations into the former General Secretary, and for then looking into this inquiry into our broader organizational culture. And this process of looking into our broader organizational culture is a process which the entire movement is going to be participating in. When the terms of reference are drafted for this process, that will happen in consultation with the members of the movement.
I mean, what happens if other provinces are to follow suit here around what the demands of the Western Cape MEC has asked of you? What happens if these allegations really threaten Equal Education's very existence?
Again, we're going to have some very difficult interactions with provincial authorities, and our approach is not to be stand-offish, but is to be unflinching in confronting whatever concerns may be raised, to explain very clearly the manner in which Equal Education conducts its work, the safeguards that we have put in place, and of course, how to improve those safeguards.
All right, we'll leave it there with the Interim National Coordinator for Equal Education, Leanne Jansen-Thomas.